Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Life Coach D coming at you, and I'm coming at you with some spiritual food for thought. So this is episode 6, and I think it will be my last episode, but more of the fallout from Don Swagger, who decided he wanted to check black preachers and check black folks as a whole and tell us who we need to vote for. I said it before, if we don't send for you, don't come for us. And here's more black preachers who are outraged and put this dude in his place, checked him real smooth because he needed to be. In case you haven't seen it or you need a reminder, here's the nonsense that Don Swagger spewed out of his mouth, not only over the pulpit, but for the whole world to see.
Now, I'm fixing to make some people mad right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be, for the statement I'm about to make, I'm going to be called a racist. And I will be called every name under the sun. But somebody needs to stand up and speak to the black church. When the largest African-American Pentecostal denomination, when that leader stands up and said, I endorse that woman, he was saying, I endorse murder. I endorse homosexuality. I endorse lesbianism. I endorse transgenderism. I endorse every evil that hell could prosper or bring up to the right. And the black church votes predominantly for the party that is anti-God. What's going on here? See, my statement to them is this. We've had them call into the program. I don't like it when you talk about white. Well, no, the problem is they don't like it because we're stepping on their toes.
I'm never hearing him. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Fred, let me, I'm about to speak in tongues, so let me get it. What we're not going to have is white theology trying to articulate to black church our morals, our culture, our history, and our faith. You are racist. It is about white nationalism. I'm a pastor, member of this board, on a newspaper, a radio station, and our black newspaper. Over 1,000 black pastors in the state of Florida have endorsed Kamala Harris to be the next president of the United States of America. Now, to get thousands of black pastors to sign off, to say, I'm not afraid of Trumpism, I'm not afraid of what they may say about me. The black church was born in slavery. The black church understands the power of black theology and liberation theology, and he cannot lecture me. If you want to talk about demons and dragons, and what Trump represents is an antichrist. And they're against everything that we stood for. When you try to tell us that Project 2025 is from the Lord, I'm telling you it's straight from hell. Because in the state of Florida, Project 2025 is being implemented right in this state. Anti-black, anti-books, anti-right, anti-Mickey Mouse. I didn't mean to do that, my friend. So let me just say this.
No, go right ahead.
Go ahead. The power of the black church. If we cannot rise in a time like this, we were never going to rise. This is a defining moment, not only for black folk, but for clear-thinking white people. This is our time. And I'm not going to be an Uncle Tom preacher who received my resource from black folk and scared to settle for black folk. The devil is a liar.
I salute my frat brother, and I greet my frat brother. I was trained as a church historian. I am revolted and disgusted by the son of a man who condemned other folk and then did the same thing himself. I will not be lectured by the great-great-grandsons of white preachers that told black folk slavery was ordained by God and you ought to be happy to be a slave. I will not be lectured and taunted and dismissed by white preachers who refuse to understand my dignity and my culture and only want to recognize me when I emulate them. The black church at its best has always been an institution for liberation of black folk and all folk. Our doors have always been open to anybody who wanted to come in. Our faith has always been about love, about loving folk enough to hold them accountable for their disrespect of God's creation of black folk. I serve a God who created me in God's own image and gave me the right to decide what I would do with my life. I'm grateful that I had a praying mama. I'm grateful I had a father who was light-skinned and decided he was going to continue to identify as a black man because his daddy was the only black person in the town he was raised up in upstate New York. I stand in a tradition of black folk who lifted black people up because they understood the God they served was concerned about who they were. I serve a nappy-headed, bronze-skinned Jesus
Here in North Africa.
who died on a cross that I can have life more fully. And I will not allow somebody who denies the truth of the matter. He would rather have somebody with 34 felony convictions for an innumerable number of other court cases waiting on him, who has been sued over 4,000 times in his lifetime, who gets off a bus, talks about putting Tic Tacs in his mouth, and grabbing a woman in her private parts. That is what he wants as president. We may disagree about abortion. I've been in ministry for 63 years, Roland. I've never told anybody to have abortion and never told anybody not to have one. I've explained to them the consequences of both and told them you need to pray, go to your God, ask your God what you ought to do because you're the one that's going to be accountable for whatever you do. And if your God says it's all right, then you do that. Because they don't even understand that in Orthodox Judaism, the child is not a child until they're born, until they are birthed. There are other traditions that honor life in different ways. And you, with your male self, want to dictate to a woman what she can do with her own body? That's the start of a deep and vicious slope that will dictate to all of us. I'm enough of a historian to know that Jews, that Hitler started out with Jews. He then started after folks who were handicapped. He then started out after folk that didn't agree with him. And he's waiting for black folks if he had ever gotten to where a large black population would be.
Well, in fact, what he did was he sent people to the United States to study Jim Crow, and they took Jim Crow practices back to Germany.
Back.
So America actually
taught him how to do that. The theologian Bonhoeffer.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who studied at Abyssinian Baptist Church.
Died because of Nazism, because he dared stand for the truth.
Who made a decision to participate in an effort to actually assassinate Hitler.
Yes.
So Dietrich Bonhoeffer made a decision to take his life for the purpose of the greater
saving
good.
other lives. There was.
Oh, I know about Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
But when they came, the story is when they came to the Jews, I didn't say anything. When they came for crippled folk, I didn't say anything. When they came for folks that were his enemies, I didn't say anything. And when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak. Start out talking about gays and lesbians. I don't understand. And there may be some folks that might get offended by this. I don't know why I'm heterosexual. I've always loved women. I don't know why. I don't know whether that's because my mother and father raised me or that was the community I lived in. But in black communities, folk, there's always been gays. There's always been other folk.
And in white communities too.
And there have been...
And in fact, there are gay folks who have served in Donald Trump's administration.
And some, as a preacher, sometimes I have to be careful about listening to folk, because sometimes the most vicious preaching is against something that they got inside of their own selves.
Doing it themselves.
They're doing it themselves. But the point I want to make is this. I don't understand why I'm how I am, so I certainly don't understand what somebody else does, but I will say this. There is one passage of scripture that I love. It's in John. And it says, you will know my disciples by their love. I'm going to love folk until I understand more about everything.
And I'll try to be a little briefer. But what's interesting to me is that he had that audacity
Right.
to say that. And I think beyond the black clergy, the black community needs to really take note that there are people now who feel so emboldened.
Oh, yeah.
Until they feel like they can say absolutely anything. And I think we as black clergy, we deal with so many different things. Again, the issue of reproductive rights, and oftentimes we hear it being phrased in the terms of a woman having the right to do what she wants with her body. Well, as a pastor, I've sat not just with a woman, I've sat with a husband and wife. I've sat with a father and a daughter who've had to make very tough decisions.
Right.
And as we counsel them, as we share with them, as we pray with them, as pastors, as was already said, that ultimate decision is left with that family. So the issue is not necessarily how you feel about the issue. The issue is whether or not government has a right to tell a family what to do with that situation. If the church doesn't have that right, then why should the government? And so I think we really have to be careful that we don't miss the fact that in many cases the white evangelical church has become almost another political party.
Well, the reason why I wanted to play that, because first of all, if you want to show the sheer stupidity of Donnie Swaggart, when he says first the black church, coming out of his mouth, the reason there is a black church is because black people could not go to white churches. So he can't even understand the roots of Christianity in America by saying the reason there is a separate black church and white church is because of racism, is because of their views. The second thing is, it's interesting when I listened to him, and again, when I first heard it, the reason I had to laugh at the sheer stupidity, because he is condemning by saying, well, the black church is supporting death. In 60 years of the presidency, there have only been 3 federal executions in 60 years. There were none under Obama, Biden. Trump gets in. There were 13 federal executions in 6 months. So when I listen to conservative white evangelicals also talk about the Catholic Church is adamantly opposed to abortion. But the Catholic Church is also adamantly opposed to the death penalty. Now, you notice you never hear the Donnie Swaggarts of the world talk about the death penalty. which I'm like, because again, and then when they talk about being pro-life, that was a clip I when I went off on a Republican last year that has probably got about 20, 30 million views when I had to explain to her the difference between anti-abortion and pro-life. So I would say to a Swaggart, I don't want to hear you calling the black church out about the issue of abortion when y'all oppose Medicaid expansion. When you oppose the Affordable Care Act, also called Obamacare, that's also life. You can't oppose Head Start, that's also life. I don't recall seeing Donnie Swaggart at any protest when an unarmed black man got shot by a cop. That's life. I literally don't recall them also fighting for the crisis in black maternal health in this country. And so when I listen to all of that nonsense, it's like you want us to buy into that, but the same individuals also are not speaking up for black institutions, because when you talk about who they first came for, these are the very same people who targeted affirmative action in colleges. They targeted the Fearless Fund in Atlanta. And yes, they also will be targeting HBCUs because they already are saying it. Oh, we shouldn't have separate education. Without even realizing that HBCUs were accepted, to your point about the black church, were accepting white folks when white institutions were not accepting black folks.
Man, oh man, I absolutely love me some us. We're intelligent, we're strong, we're knowledgeable, and we don't take no mess. Donald Swaggart, you're getting filleted like fish, and we're still not done. Stay tuned. There is more.
You got a guy who's running for president, get on the national platform and talk about honor palmer, private parts. And the so-called white church won't call him out.
Won't say a word.
Won't say a word. And you're going to call out the vice president and to say that she's incompetent. But I think it's on us. I think it's on black folk to wake up. I don't know where we get this Mark Robertson mentality in North Carolina, lieutenant governor, where Trump would say that he is, you're going to insult my frat brother? He better than Martin Luther King Jr., Mark Robinson. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is not in the 1900s. This is the 21st century, where folk are saying to us what they think about us.
But Donnie Swaggart, and then, but the greatest piece for me is you are trying to call the black church out when you are supporting somebody who cheated on his first wife for the second with the third, slept with a porn star, paid her off, got sued. Then you have been also found liable for sexual assault. You defamed her. You got to keep paying it. And who told 30,000 lies when he was in the White House. 50 lies in the first debate with Biden, 30 lies in the next debate with Vice President Kamala Harris, a man who lies about lies. And so you literally have the most corrupt, evil, lying, narcissistic insurrectionist, and then you want to call out the black church?
And no one has checked him on any of that. No one has called Donald Trump
on that side.
Exactly.
Right, because they make excuses. I'm like, please, Donnie Swaggart, show me that sermon where you held Trump to task and said, Trump, you should stop insulting black women the way you did. You should also make John Kelly, when he condemned Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, when in fact he lied on her from the White House podium when it came to FBI agents here. I mean, we can go on, but you don't see. And then of course, what's that fool? Because his dad was a preacher, but I don't even. What's that Graham boy? Franklin Graham, who questioned the Christianity of Obama. Yeah. But this fool can't even hold a Bible right. And then he said, let's pray for him.
No.
2 Corinthians. Oh, I love the clip when he got asked about his favorite Bible verse. Oh, the Bible is just really personal to me. Yeah. And so then they said, well, first, Old Testament, New Testament. Oh, they're about the same. That boy, I mean, he don't even know what's first or second.
But the primary thing that's wrong with many of the white churches and white evangelical conservatives, they have never recognized that America's first sin is slavery. And they never have recognized or admitted that white supremacy has undergirded everything that has happened in this country since it was founded. And they don't even understand that when you make the flag superior to the cross, you've already stepped away from Christianity.
I also trouble about this governor. I know I'm getting in trouble, you know, and I told Ben Crump this, and he's a member of Bethel, where I pastor. When DeSantis said that black folk derive benefits from being in slavery, and he also said that our history lacks educational merit. Now, we could not just let them get by. So we said, as a black folk, let's do our own curriculum, teaching our own history. We cannot expect them to teach our history, but doggone it, the black church, and if you use, ought to teach our history.
That's right.
Because forget what Trump may do, the bottom line, what we gonna do.
Right.
How do we preserve our institutions? How do we make sure that black colleges are growing, not just surviving, but thriving?
That's right.
That's on us, Ro.
Now, I have taken careful time to put all this together. And of course, it was a lot of commentary from a lot of individuals, but I wanted to be clear that we just can't settle for anything being said to us. We can't just settle for things being told to us without us doing our own information and research. Donald Swaggart ended up being the purest example of white supremacy and white evangelical in this country. People bring up race all the time, but it's not black folks that do it. Somehow we're always brought up. We're always in the mix. We're always involved in things we're not asking to be involved in. But you can guarantee this. When we're brought up, we bringing it. We're going to bring wisdom, insight, clarity, and understanding. You've seen a TV show host. You've seen multiple preachers. You've seen even a lawyer come and combat all of the ignorance and nonsense that's being said about this political environment and even this political choice that we have right now. Again, I'm not going to tell anybody how to vote, but I am going to say vote consciously. Do your research, study, look at both candidates, look at the issues, and look at what's best for you and your life, your family. And I will also say, look at what's best for this country. Even if you can't look in the full scope of things about the country or what's best for the country, make sure you make a decision that is not counterintuitive to who you are or what you and your family needs to benefit from in the future. Okay, this concludes episode 6. I will have one more excerpt and it will be done after that. And I will say again, remember, get out and vote. The only vote that doesn't matter is the one that's never cast. Okay, so you guys hear from me again. I remember your lives are very valuable. Much love, God bless, and peace be the journey.